Previous class, we have learned about these arithmetic operators, relational or comparison operators, equality operators. Today, we will discuss a few more important operators, which are logical operators, right? Logical assignment as well as special operators. See, what are the different types of logical operators? So from the childhood onwards, we have been learning these guys, logical and, right? So logical or logical not. So these are different types of logical operators, logical and, logical or, logical not, right? So how is the behavior of this logical and? So what is the behavior of this logical or? What is the behavior of this logical not? So before going to see this truth table, let us see some statements here. If you understand these statements, then it is very easy to understand that truth table. So and will always return true if both arguments, right? If both arguments are true. If both arguments are true, then the result is true, right? Then the result is true, right? Coming to this R, right? If if at least if at least one argument is true, then result is true. Then result is true. At least one argument. You can use these logical operators for any arguments as well. For your information, let me take as simple as a number of arguments. I'm just taking two arguments. So at the time of taking these two arguments, if both the arguments are evaluating to true, when you use this logical and, it will return you a true Boolean value. If you are using this logical or, if at least one argument is true, then the result is true. Coming to this not, logical not, what is its behavior? So it is nothing but complement. So when I am saying complement, it's like a negation. If you are having true, it will return false. If you are having some false, it will return a true Boolean value. So this is what with respect to logical operators and or not behavior. So with the help of this, try to understand this truth table. It is very, very easy. So whenever you are using this logical and, what is the statement? If both the arguments are true, then only it will return you a true Boolean value. You can see A is true, B is true, it is returning me a true Boolean value. If at least one argument is false, then it will return me a false Boolean value. Is it right? Contradictory to this particular statement of R. If at least one argument is true, then the result is true. Say it opposite for this, and if at least one argument is false, then the result is false. You can see it here. So we are having one argument B as false Boolean value. So the result is false. Is it right? So coming to this false and true. Here also you are having one false Boolean value. So the result is false. False, false. The result is false for logical and. If at least one argument is false, then the result is a false Boolean value. But this is not the case with logical or. If at least one argument is true, then the result is a true Boolean value. You can see true or false. True or true is anyway true only. True or false. At least one argument is true. Then you can see a true Boolean value. Right? So false or true. At least one argument is true. So it is returning you a true Boolean value. Right? So false or false. If both the arguments are false, then nobody saves us. So it is a false Boolean value. Right? So coming to this not, it is nothing but a negation. If you are having true, it will return you a false. If you are having false, it will return you a true Boolean value. You can see it here, not A. A is what an argument. A is having true here. So not true means it is false. Is it right? Similarly, you can see not false means it is true. If it is not false, then absolutely it is true. If it is not true, then absolutely it is false. Also, let us see a few more important points with respect to this logical operator. So whenever you are dealing with Boolean types, right? This is what with respect to Boolean types. If you are using Boolean types, that means if you are having some conditional statements, so those conditional statements will return you a true or false Boolean value, right? If the arguments are true, nothing but if the arguments values are Boolean, then you can go for this particular approach. Suppose if I am using the arguments, they are non-Boolean, right? If they are non-Boolean types, then what is that approach, right? If they are non-Boolean, right? Non-Boolean means it can be integers, right? 0 means false. 0 means false. 0 means false. Also, 1 means true. 1 means true, right? It is false. 0 means false. 1 means true, right? Empty string. So empty string also evaluates to false Boolean value. So these are the three different types of things which you need to understand, right? One is with respect to Boolean, and the other is with respect to non-Boolean types. If you are using non-Boolean types, 0 means false, 1 means true, empty string means a false Boolean value. So you can see it here. Let me try to create one directory, which is day 4. Inside this, I'm creating another module, operators 2, right? Operators 2. So as a part of this, logical operators, right? Logical operators. Right, let me define two Boolean values storing in two variables. One is true and the other is false case. Accordingly, you can try for another scenarios as well. So the same has been depicted in this diagram. So just to understand these three statements, that's it. Then your life will be very simple. So you need to see this truth table as well. So if you can see, I'm just using this print of every operator will return you some result. A and B. I'm just using this A and B. So I'm using this logical and. Similarly, print of A or B, right? Print of not A, print of not B, right? Not A, not B. So let us execute this. Run operators 2. You can see if at least one argument is false, whenever you are using this logical and, it will return you a false Boolean value, right? Coming to this R, what is the behavior of R? If at least one argument is true, then the result is true. The same has been printed in the console. Not A means not true. If it is not true, then absolutely it is false. Right? If it is not false, it is a true Boolean value. So this is what the only one scenario. You are having other scenarios, A equal to true, true, right? So A equal to false or true, right? A equal to false, B equal to false, like this, multiple scenarios. You can just have some exercise on this, right? This is what with respect to logical operators. If you are having this Boolean values, let me do one thing. Let me try to define some strings or empty string also. Let me define an empty string as well as a string. So A equal to, I'm just defining Python. All right. So let me define B is what? An empty string. Guys, empty string is always evaluates to false, right? This will be always evaluates to false. You should never forget this. So if it is not an empty string, it is always evaluates to a true Boolean value, right? So for your information, I'm just taking these two scenarios. Python is not an empty string, but double quotes is what? An empty string. So let us execute this. You can see. So what it is saying, you can see it here. It is just printing an empty result here. If I am using this logical AND. So if I am using this logical OR, you can see it is printing Python. So if I am using this not, it is returning you a false Boolean value, right? Not B, it is returning you a true Boolean value. So try to understand these two things. Let me make you understand these things. So you can see if it is not an empty string, it is a true Boolean value. Not true means false, right? So if it is an empty string, it is a false Boolean value. If it is not false means it is a true Boolean value. But coming to this logical AND, logical OR, why it is printing this empty string? As well as whenever you are using this logical OR, it is just printing the Python, nothing but first argument value. If you are using this logical AND, a second argument value, what is the reason behind this, right? If you are using this non-Boolean types for logical operators, 0 means false, 1 means true, empty string means false Boolean value. This is absolutely good, not a problem to me. Suppose if you are using this and x and y, so inside this truth table, you are only seeing a Boolean values. There is another thing also. If you are not using these Boolean values, if you are having other than Boolean values, nothing but non-Boolean types, then what is the behavior of this logical and, right? So the behavior is if x is false, if x is false, then result is x. Otherwise y. You can see it here. False means empty string. You can see. So you can see false means empty string, right? False means empty string. Otherwise it is returning y. So you can see I'm just using this Python, which is not an empty string. So I'm just performing not an empty string and an empty string. So if at least one argument is false, then the result is false. Right? You can see what is the result. False means an empty string. So what is that here? It is y here. So you can see if x is false, then the result is x, otherwise y. Or you can just write in another way as well. Or if y is false, if y is false, if at least one argument value is false, then the result is y, otherwise x. In another way, I'm just defining the same statement, guys. If x is not an empty, but y is empty, it will return that empty value because you are using this logical AND. Right? If x is empty, then it will return you x. Otherwise, it will return you y. If both are not an empty strings, then it will return you a y. If at least one is empty string, it will return that empty string only. Right? So this is what AND. You can see the same has been printed here. So one is non-empty and the other is empty. Whenever you are performing this logical AND, it is returning you an empty string. So empty string means false. Right? Always, if at least one argument is false, then the result is false. But coming to this OR, if at least one argument is true, you can see Python is true and empty string is false. So if at least one argument is true, it will return you a true Boolean value, right? What is the true Boolean value here? It is Python, right? The same has been printed in the console, right? If it is also not having that Python, this is also an empty string, it will return you an empty string here, right? It will not print anything in the console. So this is what with respect to the behavior of AND or X. Let me write for X or Y as well, right? If you can just simply specify if X evaluates, right? If X evaluates to false, if X evaluates to false, then result is Y. Otherwise, it is X. So in another way, what you can just define it here, if Y evaluates, right, evaluates to false, then result is X, otherwise Y. Contradictory to that particular statement, right? The same you can just understand. So this is specifically with respect to this non-Boolean types. If it is Boolean types, directly you can just use true or false. So accordingly, you can get the result. So generally, most of the times, you will use this particular scenario only non-Boolean types because you are having some strings, right? Some numbers. So anything you can expect. So accordingly, you can just use any one of these particular scenarios, right? With respect to these logical operators, Boolean as well as non-Boolean types. And one more important thing, always every operator will return you some result. This is what you need to understand, right? Let us see assignment operators as well. So if we can see it here, generally, what is the use of these assignment operators? This name itself says assignment is nothing but used to assign some value. So we can use assignment operators to assign some value, right? To assign some value to a variable. This name itself is assignment. It will just assign some value to a variable. Suppose you can say there is a variable x. To this container, I need to hold some data. You can specify that data. X equal to 10. Variable is assigned by this value. How you are assigning by using is one single equal to, right? If you specify double equal to, you are just checking the content, whether the value is stored inside this x equal to 10 or not. But if you use single equal to, you are just assigning the value to this container, to this variable, right? Sometimes you can also use another operators, like you have this arithmetic operators. You can just combine this arithmetic operators to just form this compound assignment operators. Compound assignment operators. Generally, if you use equal to, it is just used for assigning some value. You can just combine this equal to with other operators to form compound assignment operators. Let's suppose you can see it here. So you can just combine with addition, right? You can just combine with subtraction. right? You can just combine with multiplication, floor division, right? Integer division, reminder, as well as exponential assignment as well. So these are multiple types of assignment operators. You are using equal to. What this equal to is equal to is used to assign some value. But you can also combine this equal to with other operator to just specify or create a compound assignment operator, to just specify a compound assignment operator. Let us see an example. For everything we need to see an example, right? So let me define another thing. Assignment operator, right? Assignment operator. Guys, you can see it here. I'm just defining some variable whose value is 10. I'm just accessing that variable, right? Let us execute this. Run operators 2. You can see what is x value, which you are assigning, which is 10. The same has been printed in the console, right? Now what I will do, I will just add some 20 to x value, x plus 20, x plus 20. You can see run operators 2. So 20 plus 10, it is 30, has been printed in the console. The same, how I can write is, if you can see it here, this particular diagram, suppose, let me write it in another way. I want to print x, but the x value must be updated value, right? So print of x, right? That x value must be an updated value whose value is x equal to x plus 20. I'm just modifying that, again storing in the same variable. Previously x is 10. You are adding 10 with 20. Now you can see 10 and 20 will be printed in the console. 10 and 30 will be printed in the console. So this is what you are using assignment as well as another operator. So this is what some simple thing. But how you can achieve the same thing by using another notation? You can just combine equal to and that specific operator. X plus equal to 20. That means this is equal to the same thing which we have declared above. X plus equal to 20. X equal to x plus 20. You are using this assignment operator with this another operator which is a compound assignment operator. But when you execute this right now, you can see it here, it is just a printing this 30, the same value. So you can just use this or you can just go for. So this comes very handy. So if you want to modify the value, you can just use this particular example, right? Not only this addition, you can just combine with subtraction, you can just combine with multiplication, you can just combine with floor division, integer division, right? Reminder, exponent, any operator you can just combine with, right? So once we discuss this assignment operators, let us discuss this ternary or conditional operator. Ternary or conditional operator. Generally, I need to discuss this once we discuss this control flow, but it is also a part of an operator. So I'm just discussing it here. So ternary or conditional operator. So it is a short form of specifying or representing conditional operator, right? Short form of conditional operator, short form of conditional operator. So what is the syntax? What is the syntax? So before going to see the syntax, let us see how you can just define the simple if-else conditional statement. Most of you people might already be knowing. If you don't know, don't worry, we'll discuss in the next class, right? If you can specify if condition is true, it will return you or it will just perform action 1, right? Action 1. Else, if the condition is not true, else it will just perform action 2, right? This is what generally we can just define by using if else conditional statement. So is there any way to specify this in one single line? Yes. Here what you can use this conditional operator. So what is the syntax? First thing, you will specify action 1, right? You will specify action 1. Right, when this action 1 is executed, if condition is true, you need to specify that condition. Else action 2, else action 2. You can see the same, instead of writing multiple lines of code in one single line, I am specifying that if else conditional statement, right? So if else, if condition is true, return action 1. If condition is not true, return action 2. This is what you are specifying as a part of this ternary or conditional operators. Let us see one simple example. I don't want to make you confused. So what I will do, I will just read two values from the keyboard. So to read some two values, you need to use this input method, right? Input of enter first number. Enter first number. So once you read any data by using this input method, it will be treated as a string data type. I will use some relational or conditional or comparison operator here, so I need to compare the value which you are entering from the keyboard. So let me define another variable, so which is y equal to input of enter second number, right? Enter second number. So whatever the data which you are reading by using input method, at the very beginning we have discussed this, it will be treated as a string data structure. So I need to compare, I need to derive the relation between the values. So I want to convert that into integer data type. So I'm just converting that into integer data type, right? So this is nothing but typecasting from one data type to another data type. If you are just converting, it is nothing but typecasting, right? Once you get the data, just to check the data, which one is greater. If x greater than y, if this is what the condition, if this condition is true, just to perform action one. So what is that action one? So just print maximum number, right? Some simple message I will print. Maximum value is, right? Comma, I'll just specify that x. If x is greater than y, else I will just print maximum value is y. Let us execute this. Right click, run operators to. I'm specifying 10 for the first enter first number. For the second y, I'm just specifying some 30, right? So 10 is greater than 30, first condition. So this is false. 10 is always less than 30. So this condition is false. If this condition is false, it will not execute action 1. It will execute action 2 inside this else, right? If condition is true, execute this. Else, execute this. So maximum value is 30. The same has been printed in the console. Right? This is what some simple thing. You are just specifying multiple lines of code. Instead of that, what I will do, I'll just specify this. So you can just see it here. Print of maximum value is x if this condition is true, right? Else you can specify, right? Maximum value is y. Action 1 if condition, else action 2, right? If condition is true, perform action 1, else action 2, right? Let us execute this one more time. You can see I'm just entering some 300 now. Suppose 400. So which is greater thing? 400. So how you have checked this? In one single statement. So this is what the short form of if else a conditional statement. So this is what another operator, which is ternary or conditional operator. Now let us see few more important operators, which is special operators, identity and membership operators, right? So identity operators. What are the different types of identity operators? Is and is not. Is and is not are different types of identity operators. Coming to membership operators. Membership. This name itself says membership, right? So generally, when you are going to any club, right, any pub, you will take some membership. Is it right? So once you take that membership, you can participate inside that particular program, right? So that means you need to be a member of that. So to check whether you are a member of that, you will use this membership operators, in and not in, right? In and not in are different types of membership operators, right? Let us see two things. I am just defining two different variables, guys. So this is what a ternary operators, ternary or conditional operators, right? Now let us discuss this identity or member operators, which is special operators. Special operators, right? As a part of this, we have that different types, right? So what are those? Identity as well as membership. So identity, So this name itself says. So this identity operators. Identity is something but some address, right? You are having some identity means that means you are having some address. So it can be name, it can be our money, it can be or anything, right? So you can just understand by common sense, right? Identity means some name or frame. Similarly, in Python, you are not having any name or frame. You will have some address, right? So to compare addresses, to compare addresses, we need this identity operators. We need this identity operators. Coming to the membership operators, to check the presence, right? To check the presence of an object inside a list or inside a sequence, right? Inside a sequence, we will use this membership operators. Guys, try to understand this very easily. I'm not making it very complex. I'm just taking this thing, right? Let me open this open board. Yes, you can see it here. I'm having a container which is storing some data. Let me specify that data as suppose 10, right? This is what the data, right? I'm having two variables, right? Let me define two variables. X whose value is 10. The X is a container holding some data. Y is also a container holding some data, right? I'm having some two variables, right? Now 10 is what the data, right? What are the different types of variables which it is holding? So if we can see X and Y, right? That means if two variables are holding the same data, that same data is having only one location, right? Why Python generally creates two different locations? It will only create one location, right? One object. So these two will point to that specific object, right? These two will point to that specific object, X and Y. So X and Y just they will point to that specific object. That means X is pointing to the same value and Y is pointing to same value. So in Python, everything is treated as an object. So when I am saying object, don't worry. In Python, everything is treated as an object, even though that is a value, or a full stop, or a comma also. Right? So X is pointing to the same object and Y is pointing to the same object. That means this X is pointing to same address in which it is having 10. Y is also pointing to the same address which is having some 10. All right. So I'll just check the addresses first. So print of how you can get the address by using ID of X, right? Similarly, print of ID of Y. Print of ID of Y. First, let us see the addresses. You can see the same addresses, guys. Why you are getting the same addresses? Because X and Y are pointing the same object. All right. So I need to compare these two addresses. To compare these two addresses, we will use these identity operators, right? You can see it here. So print of, so X is Y. So internally, X is pointing to one object which is having some address, and Y is also pointing to another object which is having some address, right? So if the both addresses are same, it will return you a true Boolean value. Every operator will return you some result. So in this case, special operators are returning you a true Boolean value, right? Because X is pointing to same object and Y is pointing to same object. Accordingly, let me do one thing. Let me specify X equal to 10 and Y equal to 20. Now, in this case, X is pointing to one object, Y is pointing to another object. Let us execute this one more time. You can see it here. Both the addresses are different because both are pointing to two different objects, right? So if I am having another data which is having some different address, is it right? Suppose 20. Now X will be pointing to one object and Y will be pointing to another object. So two objects, two memory locations. So if the two memory locations are different, so accordingly, is will return you a false boolean value. So exactly opposite to is behavior is not. If is returning you a true, is not will return you a false. If it is false, then it is true. That means you are just saying both are not having same addresses, not pointing to same object, right? You can see is returning you a false boolean value, is not is returning you a true boolean value. Right? This is what with respect to special operators as a part of that identity operators. Also, let me do one thing. Let me define some another variable which is a list in this case 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is what a list, guys, which I'm just defining. So inside this sequence, when I'm saying sequence, it can be range function, it can be list function, it can be set, it can be dictionary. Right? Going ahead, we'll discuss this extensively. But for now, to make you very simple, I'm just using this list. So inside this sequence, I need to check there is an object, whether that object is present or not. Right? For that, you will go for membership operators in and not in. So every operator will return you a boolean value. One is what an object. I need to check inside that list Z. Right? One in Z. If this object is present inside this sequence, it will return you a true boolean value. Otherwise, it will return you a false boolean value. Right? So exactly the opposite behavior of not in. Right? So if it is returning you true, in will return you false and vice versa, right? Let us execute this. If you see, one is available inside this sequence. So in is return you a true boolean value. Not in, exactly opposite to behavior of in, is returning you a false boolean value. Right? This is what with respect to membership operators. Right? So these are the different types of operators. Along with this, I have also specified these bitwise operators that are not having that much importance with respect to automation, but you can have some reference which I specified in the material, right? So arithmetic, equality, logical, right, assignment, ternary, special operators as a part of that identity and membership operators. So these are the different types of operators, right? Let us see few more important thing, right, guys? If you are having multiple things, right? If multiple operators are present, which operator will be evaluated first? Right? You can use multiple operators. There is no problem at all. But the thing is, which operator will be executed first? First thing is, whatever the expression which is inside parenthesis will be executed. Next experience. Multiplication and division both are having same importance. Either first division or multiplication will be executed. Next, addition or subtraction. So if you write this in one simple word, which is operators precedence, which is nothing but PEDMAS, right? PEDMAS, PEDMAS or PEMDAS. So anything is fine. Division and multiplication both are having same importance. So they will be evaluated accordingly. So there is no confusion at all. PEDMAS or PEMDAS. Very important interview question, right? So if you are having multiple operators, so according to PEDMAS rule, so operators are executed. Right? This is what with respect to operators in Python programming language. In the next session, we'll deep dive into Python as a part of the first thing, first heart of this Python programming language is control flow. As a part of that, we'll start first with conditional statements, next looping statements, next transfer statements.